Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of September 2022, and is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great. Glad to be here. Very excited once again to talk about some Blu-rays from my collection. I gotta justify those purchases somehow, right?
Yeah, you and me both. Folks at home, if you're not aware, essentially what a Tales from the Shelf episode entails is basically, in case you hadn't noticed, Brad and I, we both have a lot of DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4K discs. We have a lot of fucking movies. And kind of to like justify the habit a little bit, at least from my perspective, I like to, swap some stories, actually expand my entertainment value from merely just collecting and hoarding these things to actually enjoying them on an additional level. Hence, Tales from the Shelf. So this month's episode, I have decided to dub Powerful Pairings. And essentially what that means is there's a thing that happens every once in a while in the movie industry where directors and stars, or directors and other crew members and whatnot, they have like a bond. Like there's the commonly known pairings of, say, like, I don't know, Johnny Depp and Tim Burton and Martin Scorsese and
I stole one of mine.
Might have. Spoiler alert. Martin Scorsese and Bobby D. Robert De Niro. That's another one. Goddamn. I'm sorry, Brad. It's not intentional. Trust me.
No, I'm joking. No, neither of those were too obvious. Obvious.
And then of course Martin Scorsese and more modern times Leonardo DiCaprio. But the point is, there's a lot of directors who find like a muse that they work with repeatedly. And it's just one of those fun little patterns that pops up in the film industry ever so often. And as a result, I thought it would be really interesting, or at least I guess Brad actually is the one who was responsible for coming up with the idea for the theme this month. We thought it would be a lot of fun to spotlight some powerful pairings between director and star, although in my case, I think I have at least a couple of instances where it's not necessarily a director, it's someone else involved in the production rather than the person in the director's chair. But
I don't know if I can allow that.
Yeah, in case you're wondering, Brad is a little bit of a stickler for the rules. In particular, Brad, would you care to like share with the folks at home who maybe haven't heard it before, because it has been brought up like a couple of times over the years, but your organization principle when it comes to like alphabetizing or ordering up the films that you own, that you put on your shelf?
Well, I mean, there's tons of rules. I mean, where do I even begin? I mean, personally, I would say the most important rule, and I actually think it's one that you don't follow. You personally, Trevor, don't follow. At least last I checked, is separating by format, and keep those Blu-rays, those DVDs, those 4Ks all separated. Don't mix them all in. That's probably the number one rule, followed by alphabetization, which is probably second most important rule. Although I do break that a little bit because I do sort some of my boutique labels into their own specific sections. But I mean, there's a whole thing. We could go all day about organization, and some today we might have to do a full episode on it. Because there's tons of like, those weird rules, like the David Fincher's 7. David Fincher's 7 would go before Seabiscuit because the full title is SE, the number 7, EN. So that's just a classic, rookie mistake that some people make. They put Seabiscuit before 7. We can go on and on about that. But anyway, that's the basics of it.
Yeah, as the gangster in Home Alone 2 says, I could go on forever, baby. With his very Chicago accent. But yeah, as is customary, I'm going to do my hosting duty and toss Brad promptly under the bus and ask that he be the first to introduce the first of his powerful pairings. So, Brad, Who you got up first?
Well, I'm gonna go with an obvious one. Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese. No, I'm joking. This one probably is the most obvious one that I have. But I feel like it's worth mentioning, and I'll be honest, I probably talked about all of these films on the show at some point. But maybe I'll have something new to say. We'll see. I'm going to talk about, and I don't really know how to do this. I guess maybe I'll just hold up the whole stack at first. I'm talking about David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan. David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan, who I think is up there, maybe not for mainstream audiences as one of the most iconic pairings, but certainly if you think of David Lynch, Kyle MacLachlan has to be in there. Part of the reason I'm bringing it up is because Kyle MacLachlan just stopped by the Criterion Collection's Criterion Closet and made his Criterion picks, and had a nice little thing to say about David Lynch, and he's basically said he owed the man his career, and it's true. He basically does owe the man everything. So I love David Lynch. I love Kyle MacLachlan. I think they are great together. Of course, I have. Oh, this is embarrassing. This is real embarrassing. I have Dune, but I grabbed the just bare bones garbage Blu-ray disc. What is this? Universal, the garbage Universal disc, and I left the gorgeous 4K from Arrow on my shelf. I was in a rush and I was just grabbing these. I'm like, dude, got it, grabbed it, boom. Forgot I owned it on 4K. So this can just go in the trash. But I also have the garbage, absolutely garbage Blu-ray of Blue Velvet. I don't have the Criterion of Blue Velvet. I have the garbage, what is this? MGM, the garbage MGM disc. And Blue Velvet is one of my favorite David Lynch films, and Kyle MacLachlan, of course, he started with Dune. That was his big break, and of course, it wasn't received very well. So Blue Velvet was kind of the film that saved Kyle MacLachlan and kind of saved David Lynch as well after Dune. And in Kyle MacLachlan's Criterion Closet picks, he said, like, it would have been so easy for David Lynch to say Dune was a big failure. The lead, Kyle MacLachlan, nobody really liked him in it. I'm just going to throw this kid off to the side and get somebody new for Blue Velvet. But he stuck with him. He stuck with him, and it paid off. So good for them. And yeah, I love Blue Velvet. Part of the reason maybe I don't have the Criterion is because it might get a 4K sometime. I don't want to, buy it on Blu-ray Criterion and then the 4K come out. He does have a very small role in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the Twin Peaks movie. This, I do have the Criterion release. And I might as well just transition into Twin Peaks, the limited series, the Twin Peaks series from 2017 or whatever. And then I also have the Twin Peaks, the complete collection, the television collection. I guess it wouldn't be complete because this doesn't have the movie, but this is the original series and the Showtime series. So I'm a Twin Peaks head. It is up there with one of my favorite shows of all time. And Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, one that a lot of people either don't like. I think the reputation is coming around lately. But I remember when I first watched Twin Peaks, I was maybe in middle school, maybe early high school. And I loved it. I maybe don't love it like quite the same way as I do now, but I did really enjoy it. And I was like, oh, there's a Twin Peaks movie. And I looked up reviews and it was like, oh, this movie was panned. It was terrible. And I'm like, oh, I guess I won't watch the Twin Peaks movie then. So I didn't watch this until like probably, I think it was right before the new series came out in 2017. And I watched it and I'm like, people think this is terrible. This is great. This is like Twin Peaks, the horrific aspects of Twin Peaks amped up to 11. And I really enjoy it. And yeah, David Lynch, I've told you before, I know he's probably, if I'd pick one filmmaker that matches my sensibilities the most, it probably would be him. His mix of horror and humor and his kind of like small town Midwest charm mixed in there. It all works for me. And of course, Kyle MacLachlan, big part of David Lynch's filmography. So there you go.
Yeah, it's really hard to not think of one without thinking of the other, honestly. Like, even for someone like me who doesn't have the strongest connection to David Lynch's work, I really strongly admire the man. I think he's one of the most compelling interviews you'll ever find. I just like him, and I like that we have him. Although, if I'm being perfectly honest, I haven't seen that many of his films. I have seen the initial run of Twin Peaks. I haven't seen the Return, although from what I hear, it's excellent. Like if you enjoyed in particular like the first season of Twin Peaks, like if you want that vibe, if you want to carry on with that, it's kind of a remarkable production in how they actually got him back after losing him briefly while working on that show. It's just kind of cool that we got that. I would very much like to watch that someday. As of yet, I have yet to. But yeah, I don't know. Like, do you know anything about like how the two of them came to know each other? Because it's really fascinating that the two of them are so intrinsically linked to each other.
Yeah, I know it was. Well, I just grabbed the. It was so embarrassing. I had to grab it. The Dune 4K. I can't believe I forgot I had this. So I had to grab that, and I remember I was watching some of the making of the bonus features, and there is an interview I believe on here with Kyle MacLachlan, and I think he said he was working. I don't remember where he's from. I want to say he's from like Washington or Oregon or somewhere. I don't. He's not originally from California. I don't remember where he said he was originally from, but he was just a small time actor somewhere, and he was just doing like local theatrical productions. And somehow I don't know if he went to LA to audition, but somehow he just auditioned for Dune, and I guess him and David Lynch hit it off, and yeah, the rest is history. That's kind of it, because I'm pretty sure Dune was his like first major role, like first role in any film. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that Kyle MacLachlan talked about it. I don't remember. I spend so much time watching these movies and these featurettes, and none of it stays with me. None of it sinks in. It's all for nothing.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, we're here to talk about the movies. We're here to talk about the work, not so much the personalities involved.
Yeah.
I don't know where Kyle MacLachlan's from. I was just curious if you knew, but yeah, it is kind of amazing how you do always think of the other, and also like Kyle MacLachlan as a presence in Hollywood is.
Arrow's books just smell. I don't know, man. Like it's not even a good smell, but it's like there's just something about it. There's nothing quite like it. The paper they use. Mm.
You heard it here, folks. Arrow books. They just got that smell.
It kind of smells like sawdust. Like maybe it's because this is thick paper. I don't know, but it's good.
I mean, if you're gonna be charging premium prices, you better have some sawdust scent in your booklets.
Poster, not so much. Posters, no scent on the poster.
Oh, it's not a scratch and sniff poster. Doing it wrong.
Think so. Jeez. I don't think I'd want to smell what that worm smells like anyway, so.
I mean, yeah, it does bring to mind certain aspects of human anatomy that, to each their own, but I personally, it's like, I don't need that right up in my face. Anyway, Kyle MacLachlan as an actor has always been kind of fascinating because, like, he has like kind of a traditional leading man like look to him, but as evidenced by him being a staple of David Lynch's filmography, he's very comfortable with getting a little weird with the material at hand, and as a result he's incredibly versatile. Like he can be incredibly funny and just a complete clown on screen. Like he can be so animated and goofy, but he can also be very intimidating, and actually like he's got legit dramatic chops to him. He's a very skillful actor.
You are just, if you think this now, wait till you watch Twin Peaks The Return, because you're going to say that times 12. Oh, he's funny? Oh, wait till you see Twin Peaks The Return. Oh, he's intimidating? Oh, wait till you see Twin Peaks The Return. Just, you got to do it, bud. You got to do it.
Yeah, I know. You've been getting on me about that for a while, and I do, because I really did actually enjoy Twin Peaks, like the first two seasons. Even that second season that, not everybody is a fan of. I actually got enough out of it to enjoy it during the parts when David Lynch wasn't involved. But I actually have seen a clip from The Return because a friend of mine who actually helped me get this live stream up and running, he's probably not watching this, but thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. He was the one who sent me the video because he was the one who found it, but the two of us, we both mutually enjoyed a website called Channel 101 a long time ago that was kind of responsible for introducing us. And mind you, this was back in high school, to the likes of Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, two huge fucking names today. You know, Rick and Morty, kind of a big deal. As far as I know, Justin Roiland actually has a video game company that has a pretty high-profile release on the way. But Channel 101 was basically a hosting platform pre-YouTube for 5-minute internet shows. Like, you'd make a pilot, and then they do a live screening of all the submissions in a theater somewhere in LA, and then the live audience would vote to see which of the 5-minute pilots would get the right to make a second episode. And you just continue submitting episodes until you get, quote, canceled, as in the last episodes you submitted didn't get enough votes to continue. And sometimes that process would result in shows self-canceling by going like over the 5-minute limit or something, just because they ran out of creative fuel and they're just like, fuck it, let's move on, do something else. Anyway, there was a fella, I think his last name is Mears. I'm kind of blanking on his first name. It might be like Jason or something, but he played Jason in the most recent Friday the 13th film, the Platinum Dunes one. I think it's like Jason Mears or something. Our nickname for him was Bald Action Guy because he popped up in a lot of Channel 101 shorts as a bald man that did action stuff, so we just came to know him as Bald Action Guy. Anyway, I saw it's like an arm wrestling scene or something between Coop, but it's definitely not Coop, and Bald Action Guy, and it results in some gore. It results in some violence where I was like, oh, but in the good way. So I know at least that happens. And yes, Kyle MacLachlan, as whoever that character was supposed to be, plenty intimidating. Like, he had quite a lot of presence to him.
Yeah. It should be a criminal offense that the Emmys overlooked him in that performance for Twin Peaks: The Return. Criminal. Jeez.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks. He got robbed.
Yeah,
our boy got robbed. Okay, well, I suppose the pick is to me. So I'm going to do the lame thing and just go with the ones that are closest to me, as opposed to the ones that I have the most enthusiasm for. And I'll do like Brad, and I'll just throw these up in one pile here. So my first powerful pairing is between one, and I'm going to get his name right this time, Brad, because I have fucked it up numerous times before. Gareth Hugh Edwards and Evans. I did fuck it up. Awesome. Gareth Hugh Evans and Iko Uwais from Indonesia. So I have here the 3 films that I'm aware of that the 2 of them have done together. So that would be the Raid 2, the Raid 1, or Raid Redemption, and the earlier film, Merental, which is probably not a very well-known film.
I didn't know this. I'm flabbergasted. I'm absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah, Merental, it bears a strong resemblance to like a Indonesian equivalent to like Ong Bak or Tom Yum Goong. It feels very much like a Tony Jaa film, but obviously it's not from Thailand, it's Indonesian. But as far as I know, Gareth Evans, it's not Garrett Edwards, that's the Godzilla guy. I did fuck that up before, and I will continue to fuck it up probably until the day I die. These two are kind of responsible for adding a new wrinkle to the action/martial arts landscape of the film world by introducing Iko Uwais as a screen talent. This was kind of his introduction outside of the world of martial arts. Like, I think this was his acting debut. I mean, he is a very capable actor, as well as like just the general style of silat as a martial art. The movement style to it, the forms that it takes on, are not something that was commonly seen in outside of Indonesian cinema. So to have them mutually like make an international splash was kind of a big fucking deal. And Marantau was not the movie that did that. Marantau was kind of, I don't know, it's good. It has a couple of excellent scenes, but on the whole, it's not like a groundbreaking piece of action cinema.
There's a reason I was so flabbergasted to not know of it.
Yeah, it's basically it's not what the Raid is. The Raid, I don't know why they added the subtitle Redemption. This is actually a curious release, because this is the Blu-ray. It says unrated edition. I don't actually know if there even was a censored edition to this film, but the big weird thing to it is that they added Redemption as a subtitle to this film, which, remember, this is the first film. Like, this wasn't a franchise at the time. It's barely a franchise now. But in addition to that, they also did what they did with a lot of martial arts movies from the late 90s and early 2000s, and they changed the soundtrack. Mike Shinoda does an entirely new soundtrack for the film. Isn't that like the Linkin Park guy? Am I wrong on that, Rod?
Yeah, I believe he's the rapping part of Linkin Park. He's the hip hop guy from Linkin Park, I believe. He's not the lead singer.
Okay, yeah, that tracks, and I appreciate that, because that would have changed my my outlook on things considerably. Not exactly a fan, but yeah, he composed an entirely new score for like the international release for the film, and I kind of see why, because the general musical tonality of the original release of the film is a little out of sync. Like, it's a little out of step with the action proceedings and whatnot. But I've only ever watched the movie straight through with the original soundtrack. It's weird because you actually have to like dive into the menus in order to change it back to the original score. They really went out of their way to try to bury that. But if you're not familiar, folks at home, and I don't know how you could miss this one, or at least not know it by reputation, this movie was an extraordinary achievement in martial arts action cinema. It kind of gave way to the creation of what they're calling, like, as a subgenre, splatter fu, which basically means martial arts action, but with a heavy emphasis on bloodletting and gore effects, like simultaneous to the like colorful action choreography. It's awesome stuff. Like, it really is spectacular. And just the tooth and nail nature to the action choreography in the Raid is fantastic. And if you ask me, it's a little overlong, for sure. But as a film, I do think the Raid 2 is an excellent film, just top to bottom. Like, I do. This was the movie that kind of taught me that, like, oh wait, this Gareth Hugh Evans fella, like, he doesn't just have like the technical chops, because a lot of the cinematography and a lot of the editing and a lot of the camera choreography and whatnot featured in both the Raid and Marantau are exemplary. But it's not until you really get to this one that you see, like, oh shit, like, he can direct actors too, because there's some like truly spectacular acting sequences, like, not involving any sort of physicality. Like, in particular, there's an exchange between father and son that is real heavy. It's actually kind of remarkable. It's like, that's in this movie. like what is this movie? And it's like, at its heart, like, it's essentially a crime drama that just happens to have some truly spectacular balls to the wall martial arts sequences, in addition to being a crime drama / family drama. So that was kind of the movie that, like, really spelled it out to me. That's like, oh shit, I think this guy's on my list of, like, if he makes it, I will come. Like pretty much anything he makes, I'll give a look. As evidenced by me buying the Blu-ray for Gangs of London, which did not stick the landing, but some of those early episodes were fantastic, for sure. And I'm eagerly awaiting. I think it's Havoc. It's his collaboration, Gareth Hugh Evans. It's his collaboration with Tom Hardy. And I like both of those things. And I don't think it would be asking too much to maybe have another situation where we have another, like, hey, maybe you want to work with Tom Hardy again, kind of thing. But yeah, very, very thankful to have what we've gotten out of these two as a pair. Iko Uwais is a gift to anybody who is interested in martial arts cinema. He's kind of a singular talent in that community. He has a dynamism to him that's spectacular, and not only that, like I said, he actually has fucking acting chops. Like, he has screen presence, and that's shocking, being as I don't think he has any sort of dramatic background other than, you know, performing martial arts forms in front of crowds and stuff in gymnasiums and whatnot. People have been clamoring for a Raid 3, but as far as I know, I don't think that's in the cards. I personally wouldn't mind seeing it, although the way the Raid 2 ends, it's like, I don't know where we go from there, guys. like honestly, but, you know, one can hope. At the very least, I would like to see these two work together again.
Maybe Gangs of London season 2 potentially could make an appearance. We'll see.
I mean, I do know that that is in the works. I don't know if Gareth Evans is involved, but I do know I think it's like a spin-off series to Gangs of London is actually in the works. So who knows? Maybe.
A spin-off to Gangs of London.
I know. Like, the way it ends, you wouldn't think that would be possible now, would you?
I was like this close to being out on season 2 in general, and when you said that, I'm done. You're gonna try and push another of these shows on me? Nah. Then you're not even gonna get season 2 out of me. Sorry.
Yeah, folks at home, I'm pretty sure I was the one who poked Brad into watching that show. Funny enough, this happens a lot in my life. I'll be the one who tells other people to watch a thing before I've even watched it. That actually happened with The Raid, by the way. A friend of mine, we kind of discovered it together. We found the trailer on I forget what they rebranded it to, but the website was called Twitch Film at the time. I think we found a trailer for The Raid way back when, and he ended up watching it like a couple of years before I ended up watching it, and that's pretty shocking, especially considering how much enthusiasm I had for that. But same kind of deal with Gangs of London. I had that Blu-ray collecting dust on my shelf for probably a year after Brad had already watched it on like AMC or whatever.
Yeah, you might owe me $20, to be honest, because you're the one that got me into this, and I started watching it on AMC, their app, which it was letting me watch it through a cable login that was, let's just say, it was my own. It was definitely not my parents'. It was definitely my own that I was using to log in and watch it. And then I got about halfway through the season, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. I'm liking this. All right. And then the episodes expired before I finished it, and I'm like, oh shit. So then I had to buy the Blu-ray because I'm like, I'm not gonna wait until it pops up somewhere else to stream for free. And I started watching the second half of the season, and it was infinitely went downhill pretty quickly. And I was like, wow. So I just bought this for the worst batch of episodes, but I did get to finish the season at least.
Yeah, sorry about that, bud. It really did not end well. It's such a shame too, because it starts out so good. Like it comes charging out the gate, and it's just like, damn it. It's like, well, I mean, that's kind of like I've said this numerous times. It's kind of what scares me away from series format productions anyway. Is like that there's always that fear in the back of my mind that's like, are they gonna fuck this up? Like, are they gonna make me feel for a while that like I'm doing something good with my time, and then they're gonna fuck me? It's like there's always a chance that'll happen, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it was still worth it. I did like some of the early episodes, and the farmhouse episode was pretty great.
Yeah, the highs are very, very high in that show.
Yeah.
So I'll give it that much, and also remember it's a series. Not every episode is directed by Gareth Evans. I forget which ones he even was involved with, but It has ups and downs, but thankfully the ups are very, very, very much worth it. If you ask me, unfortunately, it doesn't really go where anybody would have wanted it to.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough out of me and my Indonesian crap. Brad, ball is to you, sir. What is your next powerful pairing?
Well, let's talk about a filmmaker set of films. I'm sure I've mentioned. I know I've mentioned before. Again, I'm beating a dead horse with a lot of these, but whatever. We're having fun, right? I'm going to talk about. I mean, in terms of like star ratings and stuff, definitely wouldn't be like up there as like one of my top 5, top 10 filmmakers. But in terms of me wanting to champion this guy a little bit because he's popular, but like, you go up to you go into somebody's bedroom and they got a Scarface poster on their wall. They're probably not gonna know this guy or be a fan of him, but in certain circles, he's very well known. But anyway, I'm talking about Dario Argento. Dario Argento, and you know that I'm a big giallo fan. I love the giallo genre. I'm a giallo head. And it kind of all got born out of me discovering this guy's films. And I'm specifically going to talk about his pairing with, let me pull up her name here so I don't mess it up because she is Italian. It is Daria Nicolodi. Nicolodi. Daria Nicolodi. Nicolodi. Don't know. But anyway, she is actually, and I don't know their history totally together, but she sadly passed away. She was a romantically involved partner with Dario Argento. So talk about powerful pairings. These two were in love, and I believe she is the mother of is it Asia or Asia
I think
Argento?
it's like Asia.
Asia. I believe she is the mother of Asia Argento, but she pops up in a lot of this guy's films, and I'll be honest, I didn't know they were together in the biblical sense until I was looking up about her when we were going to do this episode. I feel like I should look up what's this girl's deal. But no, she pops up in Suspiria. She's in Suspiria, and I've got the Synapse Blu-ray. Embarrassing that I don't have the Synapse 4K, but the Blu-ray does look gorgeous, but I don't have the 4K, so slightly embarrassing. She pops up in Tenebrae, which I need to rewatch this because even though I've only seen this once, it is growing in my mind to be one of my favorite Argento films. This is another Synapse release. I've got the Code Red, I believe, Code Red release of Opera. She's in this. Don't remember her role in this, but I looked it up on IMDb and she is in it. And she is also in Phenomena, the Synapse release of Phenomena I have here. She is in this. And finally, the one that I remember her from the most because she's sort of the co-lead, I guess, the love interest, the female lead. She is in Deep Red. And I have two versions of Deep Red here. I have the awesome Arrow limited edition Blu-ray here, which you got your poster in here. You got a booklet, which is nice. Let's smell the paper here. Smells exact. Well, I bought this a little bit longer ago, so the smell is wearing off a little bit, but still has that sawdusty smell. Very nice. So that's the limited edition Blu-ray, and I will say, just recently purchased, just came in the mail in the last week. I have the 4K of Deep Red, the Arrow Video 4K, still in the shrink wrap, still in there. But I do believe this actually has some new bonus features compared to the Blu-ray, and I like Deep Red a lot. So I said, you know what, screw it. Arrow has a sale going on. I'm gonna pop on this and buy it. And I did finally upgrade because I did watch the Blu-ray twice. So I said, you know what, I watched it twice. It was worth the $35 I spent on it. I think I got my money's worth, 2 viewings. So now I can justify buying the 4K. If I can watch this twice, then I'll justify that. So, but I mean, she's great in all these films. I don't like some of them, like Opera. I've only seen once. I don't totally remember her in that, but she's pops up in more films than this even. Just these are the ones that I own that he has, that she is in. And yeah, she's got a kind of interesting look and vibe to her where in Deep Red, she's like the love interest, but I'm pretty sure in one of these, she does end up being the villain, the killer. And I'm not going to say which one because not only would it be spoiler, but I also don't remember. So there you go. But yeah, she's very good. It's hard to judge like in terms of performance because like with dubbing and stuff, but she's got a great screen presence. And yeah, I do love Mr. Argento's films. I'm very excited, even though it's probably going to be not great. I'm very excited for his new film coming later this year. Quite excited for it.
Oh shit! I had no idea he had a film in production at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know the title off the top of your head?
I want to say it's like dark sunglasses or black sunglasses or dark glasses or black glasses, something in that vein. It's already done. I think it's already screened. I believe it's coming to Shudder sometime in October. So it's right around the corner.
Wow, that's
Yeah, maybe
exciting.
it's October or November. I can't remember, but it's within the next couple of months.
I mean, I know his more recent offerings don't have the same reputation that his earlier stuff has, but just the fact that he's still active, that's pretty fucking
Yeah.
cool. Because
Yeah.
his name carries a lot of weight.
Hmm.
Not a filmmaker again that I have the most experience with. However, I'm well aware that you're a big fan of his work, and just the giallo genre in general. Funny enough, actually, I was watching a review of Tenebrae today on the YouTubes. Previously, all I really knew about the film was a couple of kill moments that I had seen in like montage format in like horror documentaries over the
Hmm.
years. But also, Brad pointed out to me the soundtrack for that movie is a killer. And yeah, it is. It's a banger for sure.
Well, now maybe it should be a good time for me to reveal. I have a big announcement to make here.
Oh,
Not really, but I am actually the score in a lot of these films is done by Goblin, and I am actually going to see Goblin in concert. Now, Goblin did split in two, so I'm seeing the Claudio Simonetti version of Goblin. I'm seeing his iteration of Goblin. I don't know. I think he's the only original member still in it, but they're going on tour, and what they're doing, and I'm hyped for this. They're screening Suspiria, and they're going to play the score live in concert while the movie plays. Then there's going to be an intermission, and then Goblin will come back out and play a medley of highlights, all their bangers from Deep Red to Tenebrae, and it's gonna be wild. I'm gonna be moshing in the front row. It's gonna be great.
oh man, just remember concentric circles. Keep it
Yeah.
tight. You must protect this house. Oh wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
When is that?
November 1st, I want to say.
Wow, way to go,
Hmm.
Brad. That's a hell of a score.
It
But
was probably the fastest I've ever bought a concert ticket.
I mean, shit. That's exciting, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many giallo films or Italian horror films in general, but I know Goblin. Like I
Hmm.
have YouTube playlists that like circulate through these things, and it's like inevitably if it has a little bit of a disco vibe and it's good in Italian, it's probably Goblin.
Yeah.
Like they're fantastic. Again, I guess I can't speak for which iteration of Goblin is the superior Goblin.
Yeah.
Um, but whatever one you're going to see, I hope it's great because that sounds amazing.
Yeah. In terms of their website,
Yeah.
I can say I am seeing the superior version. I can absolutely say that 100% because I checked out the other version of Goblin's website and it looks like it's from 1997. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I'm very much excited for it. It'll be fun.
Oh wow, that is so cool, man. Um, as far as Asia Argento is concerned, I know like I'm well aware that she often works with her father, and also I know he's like
Yeah.
worked with other family members. I think like a wife or an ex-wife or something is in Tenebrae. In
Well, yeah,
fact,
that's That's who I'm talking about, actually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about Daria Nicolo. I already messed up her name. Daria Nicolodi.
There you go.
Nicolodi.
Yeah, yeah.
Nicolodi. D. Italian D. Right? Nicolodi.
Sure. I'm from the
yeah.
West Coast, Brad. We don't encounter that as often as some of the folks on the other coast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, Asia definitely, she could be another powerful pair with her father. But her stuff with him was more later in his career.
I mean, I would hope so.
So yeah, I actually don't know if I've seen any of the films that the two of them have done together, to be totally honest.
I think the only movie I've actually seen her in wasn't one of his. I think it was like Land of the Dead or something.
Yeah, she's in that. I think I want to say the first one that she was in with Argento was the Stendhal syndrome. That was in '96. Oh no, apparently I know she's in Trauma. That was '93. Yeah, Trauma was the first Dario Argento joint that she was in, and I actually have that. I have the Vinegar Syndrome, I believe. Wasn't sure if it was Vinegar Syndrome or Kino or what the hell it was, but I believe that is a Vinegar Syndrome one. And that's one I will be watching. I mean, I'm going to see Goblin in concert. Dario Argento's got a new movie out this year. Let's just say, if you take a listen to my podcast, the Cinema Speak podcast, you are going to be Argento'd out. You're going to be overloaded with me talking about Argento. We're going through it all, baby. The highs and the lows in the next couple of months. We got to do it. You got to go into the deep end head first. It's going to be an Argento celebration.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to all those micro reviews at the end of your Cinema Speak podcast episodes. But I know I ask you this every time Giallo comes up, but like, this is something I inherited from my buddy who helped us set up this live stream. What would you say is your favorite among those titles, Brad?
Well, that's tough. That is tough because
gosh, I don't know.
Yeah. Online, I see a lot of people say Deep Red is like if you're gonna show somebody one giallo, it's Deep Red, and I do think that it actually does in terms of highlighting like what makes the staples of the genre. Deep Red probably would be a good one because it's got the elaborate kills. It's got a great reveal of the killer. I will say I need to watch the original cut of Deep Red because I've only seen, I don't know the name of the cut, but the extended cut, and that version I think is a little long. And I actually want to watch the shorter version, and maybe I would say Deep Red then, because that's honestly the only complaint I have with Deep Red is it's a little like overextended. But if I had to pick my favorite, I honestly think I would say The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Dario Argento's first film. It's not as stylized, but I think it looks amazing. It's really well directed. It's got a good mystery. It's got a great reveal. The kills are fairly brutal. Like they're not like super elaborate or creative. Like it's a little more straightforward. But it's got a really cool Ennio Morricone score. And yeah, I think right now I would say The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, but it could change. I mean, I love Tenebrae. I need to rewatch Tenebrae. That could easily jump to my favorite. They all rock, baby. They all rock.
Glad to hear it, man. You had mentioned some of those as being your favorites before, so that I'm not surprised there. But it's funny actually. I'm curious to see Phenomena. For weird reason though, because there's a Japanese exclusive game for the Super Nintendo, for the Super Famicom, called Clock Tower. That's actually like a legit scary Super Nintendo game, and it's a Japanese only release. However, it's very very easy to find translated versions of it online or like playthroughs on YouTube or what have you. And I guess a lot of direct inspiration was lifted from that film, to the point that the main character, the playable character in the game, basically is a young Jennifer Connelly. It's set in a mansion. There's stuff involving like wildlife, like insects and birds and stuff. again, I haven't seen Phenomena, but I love that game, and I find lots of aspects of it legitimately unsettling.
Hmm.
And I'd be curious to see what the actual movie source material is like, if it bears any sort of resemblance to the game. But do you have any feelings on that one in particular?
I've only seen it once. I did like it. Definitely, I remember there being quite a few animals in it. So if you're saying there's some animals in the game, bugs, what? Yeah, that's seems to be from the movie. And I feel like that was some of my favorite stuff, like the use of animals. I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like somebody gets killed by a monkey or something. Um, but that's one where it was not like amazing watching it, but there was like that highs were really high, and I think it had a really good ending too. Plus that one has um, a pretty solid cast, like Jennifer Connelly, and I want to say it's Donna Pleasance, I believe, is in it as well. So
I think you're
can't go
right.
wrong with either of them.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's one that I'd like to check out personally. But any one of those, honestly, like even if there are lesser titles in his filmography, I think I'm ready to dive into Argento. Like maybe October's,
Yeah, buddy.
yeah, maybe October's the time for me too.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that one, Brad.
Of
I kind
course.
of expected some form of Giallo to come up, but I wasn't exactly sure which variety we'd be getting. So, good picks, good
So
picks.
predictable.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to hear like if your feelings on that one are actually like if you appreciate it more when the runtime is cut down, because
Hmm.
sometimes that is a problem with extended cuts of films. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean better, especially in terms of film. Like a narrative
Yeah.
film is an incredibly sensitive thing that just excising or adding a couple of additional frames is it can make the difference between something great and something just plain like good.
Yeah. We're gonna force feed this one up to a 5. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
We'll get there. By the time we get to Goblin, it'll be a 5. Okay. So I suppose the ball is to me. So again, I'm gonna do the lazy thing. This chair isn't even all that comfortable. Just for some reason, my ass is glued to it. So I'm going to pick the one that's closest to me, and I'm going to go with the powerful pairing of Yuen Ping and Donnie Yen. So I have here 3 DVDs of mismatched couples, In the Line of Duty 4, and sorry for the glare, folks, and Tiger Cage 2. And this one looks like a bootleg. I think it might be a bootleg. The other two are official DVDs, though.
Can I interrupt you real quick? And I don't mean to interrupt you, but just when you said 3, it just made me think. I made a rule that for a powerful pairing, they had to have at least done 3 movies together. That was my rule. Because there's a few where I'm like, oh yeah, they're a powerful pairing, but then you look and it's just like, oh, they did 2 great iconic movies together, but they didn't do a third. So mine was you got to have at least 3. Got to have at least 3. I don't have to own 3, but you got to have at least 3 to be a powerful pairing. So that was my rule. Just throwing that out
I
there.
think that's actually a very solid house rule. Thankfully, I think I adhered to it. So we don't have to worry about stepping on each other's toes there. But yeah, that wouldn't sit well with me either. If like if you called that like a pairing between director and star or something, it's like they did 2 fucking movies. Like
Hmm.
that just means that they had a pit stop. That just means they worked together. Like that just happens sometimes. That doesn't mean that there was any enthusiasm or anything connecting the two of them. That just means that happenstance or something. But that is not the case with this pairing. And in fact, I only own these 3 movies that put these two together. But in actuality, Donnie Yen was very much kind of like discovered by Yuen Woo-ping. This is the earliest film of his that I own. Mismatched Couples. I think this is from like 86 or 85 or something. It's from the mid 80s. But the two of them, like Donnie Yen, very much was not in the film industry, and then like Yuen Wu Ping kind of discovered him and put him to work. Really showcased his talents to great effect. And most of Donnie Yen's earlier films, like within the first 10 years of his career, were directed by Wu Ping. Um, and it's really obvious why the two of them work together. And you'll notice a theme in a lot of the films I'm talking about. A lot of what I think makes the pairing of like a martial arts actor and director slash choreographer like almost I don't want to say it's more important, but like there's an additional layer to things because it's almost like a director can sometimes be characterized as like a athletic coach to actors in some ways, where it's like you are able to identify the limitations, the liabilities, and the thresholds that you're dealing with when it comes to a person's skill set. So from an acting standpoint, you have a director who is able to identify and kind of mold an actor's performance to what the production demands. In the case of a physical performance, though, like any of these, like a martial arts performance, we're also talking about just like raw physicality. Um, and I imagine as a stunt performer, as a martial artist on film, it's probably very, very valuable to work with directors who are able to understand your boundaries, I guess. Like understand how best to showcase your capabilities and how best to hide your liabilities. And there's something magical that happens between like stunt performers and directors and choreographers when they are on the same page, when they vibe with each other. That's when you get the very best work out of both. And Donnie Yen became a student of the game in later years. He went on to direct films of his own in the mid to late '90s. He has extensive background in doing martial arts choreography of his own, not necessarily even performing it, just like directing other stunt performers to do the motions and whatnot. Um, and I think a lot of him expanding his tool set came from working with a guy who is often thought of as kind of one of the great masters of the craft of Hong Kong or martial arts action cinema from decades ago to I don't know if he's still working today, but if he is capable, I'm sure there are offers like showing up at his door pretty much every day because there's a reason he was the first name that came to mind when they're putting together the Matrix, when the Wachowskis were scouting talent for choreography detail. It was just like Wu Ping, let's go with that guy. But these films, none of these are extraordinary Donnie Yen or Wu Ping films, but this one's fun. Mismatched Couples is fun because it's actually a breakdancing film that has like I think exactly one fight sequence in it. The rest of it is b-boy Donnie Yen. And if you've ever wanted to know what Cantonese b-boy music sounds like from the 80s, just look this sucker up. Look up the title sequence where Donnie Yen is pop locking down the sidewalk. It's pretty spectacular. Tiger Cage 2 is a lot of fun. The cast for this one is a big part of why it's a lot of fun is because Donnie Yen actually works with a couple of his friends from when he was living in Boston. I think it's Michael Johnson and John Salviti, the latter of which would go on to help him with choreography duties for many of his films in the late 2000s and whatnot. Also, Robin Shu, aka Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, serves as the antagonist of this one. So if you've ever wanted to know what I don't know, young Robin Shu versus young Donnie Yen looks like, you can find it here. And In the Line of Duty 4 is basically also includes everyone I just mentioned, with the exception of Robin Shu. It's also a fun one. Also a pairing of both Wu Ping and Donnie Yen from, I believe, the early 90s or the late 80s. But yeah, interesting slice out of Donnie Yen's career. And also, it's important to note, like, the two of them certainly benefited mutually from working together. Like, they definitely both went on to do amazing things beyond each other. But in this particular era, in the late 80s or the mid 80s, they really did some fantastic things together.
Well, I was just looking up the director there, and I first of all I didn't know, and I had totally forgotten. I didn't know that he directed the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sequel,
Oh,
uh, and I completely forgot that existed. That was like I felt like I just had like a weird. It was like wow, oh, yeah, I do remember that because I think that was kind of early in Netflix's streaming, you know, and that was kind of a. I remember it was kind of a big thing. It's like, whoa, a movie like that's going to Netflix. That's a and nowadays it feels like, oh yes, okay, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon sequel going to Netflix, sure. But I remember at the time it's like, whoa, that's a big get for Netflix. And I never saw it. I did you ever see it?
no, I never saw it, and I've only had access to Netflix very recently, but that is not on my list of things I'd like to check out. I heard it was.
Because he's in it, right? Donnie Yen is in it.
I
It looks
think
like.
so. I don't know. It's if I'm being 100% honest, Donnie Yen has this like pattern in his filmography where there's a lot of movies of his. Like as talented as the man is, there are plenty of movies of his that I will just point at and say, no, I'm not doing that. Like I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. Um, and that was kind of if he is in fact in that one. I had zero hype for that. I was like, first of all, why? And second of all, like nothing you're showing me looks at all on par with that other extraordinary film. um, just leave it alone, guys. Yeah, that he has directed many films. He kind of vacillates back and forth between being strictly a martial arts choreographer and also like being a full-on director. I think the most recent film of his that I've seen that he directed was I think it's called Master Z. It's a spin-off of the Wilson Yip directed and Donnie Yen headlined Yip Man films. The quote antagonist of the third film, played by Max Zhang, he proved popular enough that it's like, well, let's just give him a movie and let's put fucking Batista in it because. And then also it's directed by Wu Ping, who also did the choreography as far as I know, and also has Michelle Yeoh, who is always welcome. She's great. And there's a fun trivia factoid in there, if memory serves. I could be wrong, but I think Max Zhang, the star of the movie, served as Michelle Yeoh's stunt double in like the early 2000s. So there's actually a fight scene between the two of them in that film in Master Z, and if that is in fact true, that's kind of awesome. Like to have like a stunt double dueling the person that they doubled for later in their career.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's like a very fascinating like passing of the torch kind of situation. As far as I understand, they're still trying to make Max Zhang work as a martial arts star. I'm pretty sure mainland China loves him, being as he's in Pacific Rim 2, that movie that I don't think anybody outside of China likes. And he also has like a Wolf Warrior spin-off movie, which means that'll make $1 billion. But I don't know, his solo career post Ip Man 3, he has the look, but I don't know. He doesn't quite have the goods, if you ask me. But that's like a ongoing struggle in the martial arts action category of film. Is like, who's the next big thing? It's like I don't know. It's like nobody knows. Like we'll know 5 years after the fact, but for now it's like Donnie Yen's in his 50s and Scott Adkins is in his mid 40s or upper 40s or something. Everybody's getting fucking old, so we got to find the next big thing. And I don't know who it's going to be, but it'll be really exciting whenever that becomes clear. But yeah, I guess that's enough for me and my old ass Chinese shit. Brad, what is your next powerful pairing?
Real quick, if you had to pick from that pairing, what would be your number one movie that you would pick for like someone who just if you they had to pick one? You know?
If I had to pick one,
Yeah.
for somebody who maybe wants to be introduced to these two,
For me, yeah.
for you, Brad,
For me, yeah.
I would go with one that I don't own, but that you may have already seen, actually, because it actually did receive a domestic release. I don't know how much enthusiasm was behind it, but you could find it at Blockbuster, like in the early 2000s, maybe,
Okay.
or late 90s. Iron Monkey would be the one I would go with.
Oh, yeah. I never saw that, but I know it.
Yeah, Iron Monkey is a very good showcase of the wuxia style, so very similar to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like really fanciful wire work, very very imaginative and kind of whimsical, unrealistic martial arts choreography. I forget the name of the. I think it's an actress, but they do a thing in Chinese cinema very often where they have like gender swaps for children, where it's like it's very common to have a young girl play a young boy, or vice versa. I think it's a young girl. I could be wrong, but incredible martial artist. It has a couple of showcase sequences in there. They're stellar. And then Donnie Yen's in there. He's his usual stoic self. I don't like what I don't prefer stoic Donnie Yen, if I'm being honest. I like arrogant shitheel Donnie Yen, and he's stopped kind of doing it as often. But it's like I'm always happy when that Donnie Yen shows up. When it's like he's kind of a prick, but I like him for it. It's like he's basically like think like Maverick or Tom Cruise from Top Gun. It's like when Donnie Yen has swagger, when he's got his frosted tips and shit going, like that's when you know you're gonna have a good time. When he's doing the Ip Man thing that made all the money in the world and most international audiences know him for, that's good. Like that's fine, but it's like come on, man, bust out some of that attitude. It's like, but yeah, Iron Monkey would probably be like that would be the one I would go with, just because it's very well rounded. Because these ones I pointed out are a little bit more niche, I guess. Like Mismatched Couples is just a bizarre film, and the other two are like you have to be in the mood for specifically that vibe, like that era of Hong Kong cinema that has a very specific vibe to it. Whereas Iron Monkey, it's just like I want a Chinese martial arts film. There it is. Anyway,
Yeah. I do remember that when it came out, though. I just looked up the DVD cover. Now I'm like, yeah, I definitely remember seeing that at Blockbuster or whatever.
Speaking of redubs of foreign films, I did mention that with what they did with The Raid. Like the other examples that come to mind are Black Mask, the Jet Li film. They completely rescored it with a hip hop soundtrack. I think it's mostly Wu-Tang Clan songs. I could be wrong on that, but it's definitely a hip hop score.
Nice.
And then you can even see it on the graphic on the live stream. The protector in the center of your YouTube screen.
Oh yeah.
That's actually the Thai film Tom Yum Goong, that, as far as I know, was completely re-edited for international release, and also the advertising campaign for it was like relentless with throwing Quentin Tarantino's name all over the fucking place. It's like he had nothing to do with the making of this film. He like threw a few bucks at the production house to get the distribution rights, and that was kind of the extent of it. But yeah, it's its own thing. It happens from time to time. And Iron Monkey, as far as I remember, had a similar situation to to Tom Yum Goong, where they did. I don't know if they re-edited it, but they most certainly threw someone else's name on it to try to sell the thing to Western audiences.
Yeah.
Anyway, ball is to you, sir. What is your next pick?
All right, the next one I'll go with. This one's a little bit of an obvious one, maybe. It's an obvious but a goodie. It's an obvi but a goodie. And it is. I'm going to talk about. I would say if I had to pick one actor as my favorite, I would go with this guy. We're going to be talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman and Paul Thomas Anderson. I know, yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson. He's an obvious choice in terms of he's up there in terms of famous filmmakers. Like the film bros love him, but hey, I'm a bro and I like film, so I guess I'm a film bro and I love him. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, I would probably say, is maybe my favorite actor. It was very sad when he passed, and still miss his performances. But of course, he did lots of films with Paul Thomas Anderson. I do believe he did Hard Eight. He had a very small role in Hard Eight, but that was PTA's first film. Then he's got another small role in Boogie Nights, which I think this Blu-ray. I don't think there's a 4K of this yet. I think this is the best we got. Boogie Nights is such a watchable movie. Like this is one of those ones like I don't have cable, but it'd be like a movie where if it pops up on cable, no matter where you're at in the movie, no matter what you're doing, you're sitting down and you're watching Boogie Nights now. It's just so entertaining, and you could say it's a young filmmaker doing his Scorsese riff, and that's fair enough. But I absolutely love Boogie Nights. We got Magnolia, which is a film that I need to revisit this. Of course, it's over 3 hours, so it's not like an easy one to just pop on a Sunday afternoon. I really like Magnolia the last time I saw it. I feel like maybe some elements of it might be a little too precious if I were to watch it now. Because, I mean, the last time I probably saw it in full would have been at least 5, 6, 7 years ago, at least. But I do love the performances in it. Yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's got a little bit of a heavier role in this one. He's the nurse to, I think, is it Jason Robards? And he's very good in this. His, you know, segment with him and the bringing Tom Cruise in. I mean, it's some pretty powerful stuff, and I am a big fan of these films of like people interconnecting and stuff like that. It's a genre, it's a subgenre I like. He has a great role in Punch Drunk Love, another small performance. It is interesting that Philip Seymour Hoffman he did a lot of small roles with PTA. Like obviously they were frequent collaborators. I assume they were good friends, but most of the stuff was fairly. Most of the roles were pretty short on screen time. This might be, I mean, maybe one of my favorite performances of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, he absolutely kills it in this movie with the little screen time. I love him as the sleazy mattress salesman who's running a phone sex ring from the back office. Just he's amazing in it, and he plays a good sleazeball. He plays a real good sleazeball, and also not a PTA film, but in Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, he's a real good sleazeball in that. And then probably his like biggest PTA role would be in The Master. I know he did get an Oscar nomination for this, and he's very, very good in it. Him and Joaquin Phoenix going toe to toe. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is up there as an actor I love as well. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix in The Master is like just like such great performance. I mean, there's nothing like it. But Philip Seymour Hoffman is awesome in it as well. And this is one that's definitely grown on me more and more the more I watch it. But yeah, I can't really say there's a PTA film I dislike. Honestly, probably Hard Eight would be down there. Just, it's his first film. It's not like amazing. And I gotta be honest, Licorice Pizza, I need to revisit it. It did not wow me. His newest one, I know a lot of people loved it. It was up for a bunch of Oscars. Did not wow me like it did a lot of people. So I don't know what I'm missing on that one. But of course, that one is notable for having Philip Seymour Hoffman's son in the lead role, which is very cool. So yeah, their collaborations together are pretty great.
Yeah, truly, truly amazing stuff. Both of them. PTA is one of those directors. Like if he makes it, I'm going to take notice. Essentially, I say that as somebody who has yet to see The Master. I know, Brad, you've spoken very, very highly of it numerous times. Very much something I will not allow myself to forget about. I really would be excited to check that one out. Licorice Pizza also I haven't watched, although I have been hearing that from other people that are fans of his work. That's like that didn't quite click the way some of his other works have. But there's just a level of quality that a lot of his films have that it's just some intangible something or other that it's just like, damn, this is a fucking film. Like it feels nourishing to like consume one of his films in some ways. And I totally agree with you about Punch Drunk Love. Philip Seymour Hoffman is fucking hilarious in that. That exchange over the phone between him and Adam Sandler is legendary. Just the cutting back and forth between the two of them and the physicality of his performance. Like he really was an unbelievable talent on screen. Like he could do anything. Like you could ask him to do anything and he would do it probably better than the top 5% of the people in the world that could even be considered for the task. I mean, for fuck's sake, he was actually fairly intimidating in Mission Impossible 3, and that wasn't like a super demanding production, but like he showed the fuck up for it.
He could have just phoned that in, and he brought it.
Yeah, no, he really demanded a lot of the other people on the set with him, and it actually worked out quite well. I thought, like, as for the little screen time he had in that film, he was fantastic. And Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, yes, he was a complete fucking scumbag in that, but an utterly compelling character on film. That was a film that Kyle selected for us to review for Catching Up on Cinema a long time ago, and I'm really glad he did, because it would have been off my radar. But we actually, that whole month, we were spotlighting actors who had passed away, and
that's right. That's right.
I think it was Moving On March, I think was the name of the event month. It was like him and like Anton Yelchin, and I forget who else, but like that was one of the big ones that month for sure. But PTA is unbelievable filmmaker. Like something about the stuff he does, and I actually agree with you wholeheartedly about Boogie Nights. That I don't know what it says about me, but that really is an any time kind of movie. Like it really is. Like I could watch Boogie Nights every day, probably for the rest of my life, and never get bored of it. That's one actually I would like to watch with the girlfriend, but I'm curious like how she'll interpret that.
Yeah, I haven't done that either. That'd be an interesting one to try and do, because it's one of my favorites. So it's gonna happen at some point.
It really is. Like I have seen it many times, and it is really, really good. In fact, I think at one point I had it saved on my PS3 hard drive. In probably like 720p like format or something. It's a remarkable film, and that and Magnolia were kind of the movies that kind of tipped me off to editing and PTA, and like how important that is to that air of quality that a lot of his films have. Because I don't know if Magnolia clicked with me like the strongest either, but the one thing that I will say about that movie that I don't think anyone can argue is the editing, the way that film is constructed is some masterclass shit, where it's like I don't, that's some big brain shit that I don't have the equipment to conceive of how one would keep track of all those threads and have them coalesce so beautifully the way it does in that film. Kind of similar to Dunkirk, I guess, where it has that almost like home run vibe to it, where it's just like, yay, they did it. Like they did the thing that I was hoping they'd do for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I gotta rewatch that one. It is a banger. It's a banger.
Oh, is that Magnolia or Dunkirk?
Both, but I was talking about Magnolia.
Yeah, no, I would totally rewatch it. I would rewatch pretty much any of his other movies, and like I said, I still have some work to do to like catch up on everything that he's done. Yeah, they're both truly amazing talents in the film industry, and it's such a shame that Philip Seymour Hoffman is gone, because he really did have so much to offer. Like really, he could be the funniest fucking guy, and also like one of the heaviest dramatic actors at just the drop of a hat. What was it? Along Came Polly or whatever.
That's right. Yeah, he's the highlight of that for sure. I mean, yeah, the guy left behind a legacy of great roles, so he's got that at least going for him.
Yeah. Okay, well,
sorry to bring you down.
Let's transition into something completely different.
Please tell me you got somebody who's alive next.
Give me a minute. Okay, so once again, I am reaching for the closest thing to me, and Brad, you will not be surprised at all by this one. So this is a collaboration between director and, again, martial arts actor, that is currently like still ongoing as far as I know. Although I don't know if they have anything in the works at the moment. I hope so. So I have here 7 films between star Scott Adkins and director Jesse V. Johnson. So I unfortunately did not order these up in like chronological order, but we have Pit Fighter, which is the first collaboration between the two of them. We have the pairing of The Debt Collector and Debt Collectors, the unlikely sequel to The Debt Collector. If you've seen the first movie, you know what I'm talking about. We have Avengement. All 4 of those are on DVD, by the way. We have Triple Threat, which is the Scott Adkins equivalent to The Expendables. However, it's very worth noting that he was in The Expendables too. So this is more a Scott Adkins centric Expendables type film. Then we have Savage Dog and Accident Man. So Jesse V. Johnson, as far as I know, he is a British filmmaker, and Scott Adkins is a British martial artist. As I said, this film, Pit Fighter, starring Dominique Vandenberg, who is he speaks Flemish. I forget. He's from some part of Belgium, I think. Anyway, there was a book called The Iron Circle that my friend had me read, that reeked of like bullshit martial arts biography. I don't know how true it is, but this man's claim to fame prior to this film was supposedly fighting overseas in like underground, like bare knuckle tournaments and shit, doing a martial art called Kunto. And then his other claim to fame was he got to stand next to Leonardo DiCaprio in Gangs of London, or Gangs of New York, excuse me, during the big non-battle at the end of that movie. But Scott Adkins has an incredibly small like stunt role in this film. It's blink or you'll miss it. He was not the man that he would go on to become. These films, The Debt Collector and Debt Collectors, pair Scott Adkins with Louis Mandylor, who is brother to Costas Mandylor. I don't know if you know either of those names, but Louis Mandylor plays the younger brother in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you've seen that one. I like him as an actor. I think he's, I forget, I'm pretty sure he's ethnically Greek. I think he might be from Australia, but he's pretty skillful about covering his accent. Very versatile actor, very physical. He has a way of carrying himself that's a lot of fun. I've recently spotlighted him on my solo review of the Liam Neeson headlined film Memory. Louis Mandylor has exactly one scene in that film, and he gets his head smashed onto a bar table. It's pretty great. It's like only Louis Mandylor could have taken that hit the way he did. But he gets some dialogue in there beforehand. But I have Avengement, which, yes, that is the title, Avengement. This is actually one that I would love to have on Blu-ray, but as far as I know, the only Blu-rays that exist of it are on Region B. This movie, I brought this up countless times, but Brad, maybe best barroom fight of all time, like one of the best barroom brawls in action cinema. The last...
Yeah, you sent me the clip, I think, right? I'm pretty sure
I'm pretty sure I've sent it to you 2 or 3 times, because it's
well, I only watched it.
Well, that I mean, I already owe you $20 for that Gangs of London Blu-ray, so it's like I'm not gonna ask any more of you. But yeah, truly spectacular, and also, you know, from an acting standpoint, Adkins gets to stretch his wings a little bit. Like you can kind of tell from the way he looks on the cover, he's playing a different sort of character, a little bit more aggro, a little bit more rough around the edges than his usual clean-cut self. Triple Threat, as I said, this is kind of his Expendables film. The cast for this film, I don't know if you can see on the cover, but truly spectacular who we have in here. We have Michael Jai White, Tiger Chen, who is a charisma vacuum, but he's a decent martial arts performer, and he's very, very, very good at protecting other performers, I guess. Like he's good at working with non-performers, I guess. Like he's good at making other people look good. He's the jobber to the stars, if you will. We have Tony Jaa front and center. The big head on there is Iko Uwais, who is criminally underused in the film, but he's here and he gets to do some stuff. We have Jija Yanin, who is a Thai martial artist that she was in like Raging Phoenix, and I forget if that was her in Chocolate, but she's very talented. Michael Bisping, and of course Scott Adkins. I got to see this one in the fucking theater with my brother. That was a really cool time. We also have Savage Dog, which also pairs Scott Adkins with Marco Zaror, who I will pull up here, because the fellow wielding the knife at the bottom of the cover, Marco Zaror, he's a Chilean martial artist. He's very tall and highly acrobatic. The two of them shared the screen opposite each other, Scott Adkins and Marco Zaror, in Undisputed 3, which I think Adkins credits as his best work, like his finest martial arts performances on film. That's saying quite a lot. So this was a reunion of the two of them, and in fact the two of them are both scheduled to be in John Wick 4 together. So that'll be yet another reunion. I wouldn't be surprised if they find an excuse to throw them together again, being as they know each other and they know each other's rhythms and whatnot better. And then the last one I have here is Accident Man. This one, I'm actually not positive if our director, Jesse V. Johnson, is returning for this film, but Accident Man 2, Hitman's Holiday, is currently being advertised and is actually going to be out next month, I think. If I can see that in the theater, nice. I actually might, because this is actually a fun little comic book action film. The cover is evocative of films that I generally don't like Smoking Aces, I'm Looking at You. But this film's actually a lot of fun, and it really showcases like Adkins' more playful side, I guess. Like he does have a sense of humor about him, and a lot of it's frankly toilet humor, very immature toilet humor at that. But for fuck's sake, you get Michael Jai White and Ray Park. So you get fucking Darth Maul and fucking Spawn throwing hands with Scott Adkins in the same scene. It's kind of a big deal. But the two of these guys, director and star, they have done fantastic work together. Clearly they have a rapport that is exceptional across, in particular, Adkins' career. Like he's worked with numerous directors many, many times, but 7 fucking movies and counting. Clearly, and also most of these are like on the higher tier in terms of overall quality. Triple Threat in particular has a sheen to it, like a production budget, like production value to it, that a lot of his other films simply can't measure up to. So whatever the chemistry is between the two of them, it must be special.
Now I want to, there's no probably real answer to this, but like this Jesse V. Johnson guy, it seems like his movies, maybe I'm just looking at the ones that are good, I don't know, but it seems like I'm looking at them, it seems like they get a pretty good reception critically, at least the ones I was looking at, like Avengement, and like is there a reason why you can think of why he hasn't really been given anything like the next level up, you know what I mean?
I don't know, actually. That's a question that I'm continually looking for the answer for, because there are like action movie centric podcasts out there. Scott Adkins, in fact, has one of his own that involves him interviewing other professionals like in the same field. A lot of them are people he's worked with directly, and some of them are people that he would like to work with someday, and some of them are people from years past and whatnot. But there have been a few instances where he's picked the brains of people who are more invested in the actual like filmmaking process, like directors as opposed to like action stars and whatnot. And I know piracy is a tremendous problem for, in particular, like for lack of a better term, like red box caliber films. Apparently, a lot of them reap no profits because people just pirate them, and as a result, a lot of these direct-to-video action productions just don't make enough money And a lot of times I would imagine studios are looking at your return on investment as one of those special indicators as to whether they'd want to hire you or not. So maybe that's weighing against him. I really don't know though, because he does seem to know how to manage a production. Like his films are obviously of a lower budget level, but it doesn't seem to. I don't see any evidence of like mismanagement or anything. It really could just come down to like he doesn't know the right people. I really don't know, but it is one of those things that like Triple Threat's probably the closest he's gotten to like a mainstream like larger film production.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's in the cards, like if it's ever going to happen, honestly.
Maybe he's just comfortable doing his own thing. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want that pressure. I mean, if he's happy, hey, just keep on doing your thing, bud. Just keep whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I'm curious if like I've always championed them, but like 87 North, 8711 Productions, like they do fantastic work. But I'm like curious if like a few years down the line, if they're going to turn into like a nasty corporate venture or something that starts like gobbling up these other smaller talented action studios or something, where it's like, oh, Jesse V. Johnson's not, he's on the 8711 payroll now, he's gonna do what they do now. It's like they could have a heel turn or something as like become victims of their own success or something. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, but you know, it is what it is.
Talking about piracy and return on investment, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but like, let's just get real here. And let's throw it all down there. We've all watched some films illegally. We've all done it. We can all admit to it. Like, let's get real here. But nowadays, and I'll say, I think maybe a long time ago, maybe I was watching stuff illegally just for the sake of being free. But yeah, I'm glad I'm full screen for this, because I got a lot to say about this. All right, listen, you're gonna pirate these movies and watch them in this garbage quality when you can just spend a couple of bucks and own them in gorgeous HD quality. What is this world coming to? If I were these people, is your experience of a film not worth a couple bucks so you can watch it and actually look good and sound good and know that it's legal and your money's going to the artists? Like, come on now. I spent $70 between these two Deep Red releases. You can't spend $4 to watch Avengement or rent it. Get real. Like, what's going on with people these days? People don't know how good they got it. You're a little bit older than me. You know better than I do how hard it used to be to find movies before the times of where you could rent everything online, you can buy everything online, whether I'm all about physical media, but it's easier than ever nowadays. If there's a movie you want to watch, chances are 99 point well we'll say 95, let's say 95% of movies, if you want to watch it, you can find it somehow to watch legally in probably pretty good quality online. And these people are still pirating movies. Come on, we got to support the Jesse uh whatever his name you said was. We need to support him and Scott Adkins. Come on, people, it's not that hard. Like, let's go. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like if it's available to people, that there's more than a few people they'll take the easiest, cheapest route. Piracy is a difficult thing to navigate around. I like Brad mentioned, I dipped into it a time or two when I was younger, for sure.
We all did. We can admit it. We all did. All right, we all did. We're not pretending here anymore. It's happened. But listen, that life of crime is over. You know what the last movie I pirated was? You want to know? And I could be wrong about this, but I think the last movie I pirated, it was the Super Mario Brothers movie, because I couldn't find it anywhere. And this was in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. I thought the world was ending. I thought, who's going to care if I watch something illegally? Everything's done. But nowadays we're back on track. I don't know if I can watch the Super Mario Brothers movie. I might have to, if I wanted to watch it again, I'd probably have to pirate it again. But anyway, let's just, spend some money. What are we like? Well, just how cheap are we? And you know what the problem is? Most people, they don't care. You go over to somebody's house, you watch a movie, and like their TV looks like crap. They're watching it on DVD or streaming. They got motion smoothing on. Most people don't care. It looks like garbage. All right, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done on my soap. But that's the thing. Most people don't care about how something looks or the quality. They don't care. It's insane.
Yeah, it is one of those things that like actually calls back to like the discussion I often have with Kyle about we notice different things when it comes to movies. Like the running gag with he and I is that he doesn't notice music. He doesn't notice the score for movies. Like he notices the soundtrack, like the music, like the musical choices, the songs and whatnot. But the score just he takes in the entirety of the production as one whole, so that the sound is married with the image. It's not two distinct things. I don't understand that. And also everything that I just said is bullshit. Like that, I disapprove of that. But yeah, the quality thing is like that I don't get. It's like when I do go to someone else's house and it's like, you're okay with this? like I recently moved in with the girlfriend, and you know, one of the first things I did, tweak those settings on that goddamn TV because that was in my bedroom. No, unacceptable. No smoothing. We're not doing that bullshit in this household. We're not watching football 24/7. We are watching fucking films 24 frames per second.
Preach it, brother. Preach
That's right. That being said, that's enough of me and my Scott Adkins man love. Brad, ball is to you. How about we call this the last pick, okay?
What are we doing again?
Powerful pairings.
Oh boy, you know what? After that move, listen. I went with the PTA, the obvious, the classy choice, the Philip Seymour. Like that's class. You know what? I'm going a hard left turn here, and this is almost an embarrassing choice. I'm going to go with an embarrassing choice, and you're probably going to be embarrassed for me with this one, but I got to do it. I have to do it. It is absolutely a pair, whether it's powerful or not. And I'm talking about a director who is extremely controversial. Maybe not extremely, but I think I've heard you and lots of other people say that they don't like him. And I for the most part, I would agree. I think I only like 2 films that he's done, to be totally honest. But that pair is Pete Berg and Mark Wahlberg, who just continue to pump out joints together. But I only own 3 of them, and the Lone Survivor I don't even like that much. So really, I only care about these 2. These are the only 2 I actually like. But Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day, I really like these movies as overly rah-rah Americana as they are, as overly sentimental as they can get. I think Pete Berg, his direction in these 2 films, I think is really great. You could argue Patriots Day, like, yeah, was it too quick? Was it too quick of a turnaround? Probably. But I think it's a very exciting and well-made film. And I will say, yeah, I hate how Mark Wahlberg solves everything. Like, yeah, that is dumb. He literally he single-handedly like captures the Boston Bombers. It's like, all right, like the point where he finds the guy in the boat. It's like, all right, you couldn't have had somebody else find the guy in the boat. Come on now. But I think the cast is great in this. I think there's some great sequences. And hey, is it an obvious film that's going to make you cry? Yeah, of course. But did I cry? Absolutely. It hit me in the heart. Deepwater Horizon, I think is maybe I don't want to say it's a better film. It's a little less obvious, I feel like. But I do feel like, yeah, when shit hits the fan, I think it's pretty effective. Lone Survivor, this was a blind buy for me. It was the first one I watched out of this group. I think it was the first one that Pete Berg and Mark Wahlberg maybe did together, at least in terms of these true events. And Lone Survivor is probably my least favorite out of the 3. But they've continued to collaborate since. They did what's that movie that you absolutely hated? I'm assuming you hated
Mile 22.
Mile
also
22,
featuring
which was not great.
Featuring Uwais, actually.
Yes. Yep. Which, yes, it was not great, but the premise was good. I loved the premise. What it was, they had to just drive 22 miles to escape, or I don't know. It was a good it was a bad movie, but a good premise. Um, and then they did the Netflix movie Spencer Confidential, which was not good, but I think it had at least a couple decent moments of action. I think I gave it a 3, very generous 3, but there was at least a few things in it I liked. So listen, I'm not saying Pete Berg is a masterful filmmaker, but I kind of like his films tackling real life tragedies, and I kind of hope he does. I don't want there to be more tragedies, but if there is going to be another tragedy, I would much rather have Pete Berg do one of those again with Mark Wahlberg versus a Mile 22 or a Spencer Confidential. Because I mean, Lone Survivor, I think it is pretty watchable. I think it's okay. But yeah, Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day, I like a fair bit, and the score in Patriots Day, Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross, got some good tracks in there. I mean, I enjoy these two films. Get it straight. I enjoy these two films. I'm not loving Pete Berg across the board, but at the very least, I'm a guy who, if a director makes a movie that I like, if he just can make one movie I like, a lot of time I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and that's what's happening with Pete Berg and Mark Wahlberg. I was, oh, it's another Pete Berg joint. I got to check it out. It's probably gonna be bad, but you never know. We could have another Deepwater Horizon on our hands. So yeah, I mean, these guys they're definitely have been attached at the hip in the last little bit. It's kind of like a little bit of a poor man's Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise. Like they're just like connected together.
Yeah, actually, that's not a terrible comparison. Stylistically, I've always felt that, like, in more recent years anyway, Peter Berg and Michael Bay seem to like parallel each other very strongly. But yeah, Michael Bay
Yeah.
hasn't really had like an actor that you can point to. Like, he's too much into just like lensing and staging of stunt work
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I don't think like who the person who is on screen is terribly important to Michael Bay, as long as they look right, like as long as they're aesthetically correct to what his vision is. In terms of like actors, I don't think he gives two fucks. Peter Berg, like, I know I talk a lot of shit about Peter Berg, but a lot of it comes down to like his the niche that he's found himself in. And I mean, you were very candid about like pointing out exactly what we're talking about here. It's that rah rah go America thing he has going lately. He does seem to be trending slightly away from it with his most recent offerings. But I'm looking at his filmography right now, um, and it looks like he kind of started out on a more conventional path and then ventured into like blockbuster cinema with The Losers, which was an unsuccessful. Well, he didn't direct it, but he wrote The Losers, which was an unsuccessful comic book adaptation. One of Chris Evans's many, many, many comic book movie roles, by the way. But Battleship was a travesty, if you ask me. That's
I have not seen Battleship, so I'm not commenting, not endorsing. Be good.
oh, I think I lost you for a minute there, but um, yeah, Battleship is fucking terrible. I'll just leave it at that. And like aesthetically, it's like engineered to be evocative of the Michael Bay Transformers films, and as a result, it's very noisy. It's overly colorful and dreadfully dull in terms of like, I don't know, its narrative flow, and it has zero characterization to it. It's just not a very good movie. But Lone Survivor, I can watch that film. I actually own that film. It's very watchable, and actually it does have some solid performances to it. Ben Foster's always a win, if you ask me. Emil Hirsch fell off a little bit, but he's a very capable actor. In general, I think Lone Survivor is a fine film. Like it keeps it more focused on the personalities than the politics, I guess. Um, but Deepwater Horizon, I haven't seen. Is that? Would you say that's one of the better ones?
I mean, I've heard people say that, yeah, out of those three, I've heard a few people say Deepwater Horizon is their favorite. Um, I think I'd probably give the edge to Patriots Day, even though, yeah, I know the whole Mark Wahlberg thing, but I just like the procedural aspect of it. I think it's pretty effective, so I would give it the edge because of that. But no, I mean, Deepwater Horizon, I think is good.
Yeah, I seem to remember it doing quite well, and there is something to be said for. I mean, you and I are enough like '90s kids. I was born in the late '80s, but I was most certainly a child in the '90s. Like disaster films were very much a thing that we were all raised on, and it's always, I don't know, like a warm blanket, kind of like seeing one of those out in the wild in the 2010s or the 2020s. Kind of a rarity actually these days, but and like anytime that genre wants to make a comeback, I'll welcome it with open arms. But Patriots Day, like the politics of it are a little meh, and the Marky Mark character in particular is a big problem with it. Where it's like magical Marky Mark, who's, I get it, he's supposed to represent the city of Boston, but it's like, come on, man, does he have to be involved in like every leg of the journey? It's like he just keeps walking into rooms and like dumbly suggesting exactly the thing that needs to be done. um,
Yeah.
but you're right. The procedural aspect of it is very watchable. It does move very well, and it's shot very nicely. That is one thing that is hard to take away from Berg, especially in more recent years. Like he knows how to shoot a fucking film. It's nice to look at. It moves. I don't have too much problem with Patriots Day. Mile 22 can suck my dick. That movie's not very good. And they had the audacity to try to plan it like a fucking franchise around that thing. Like they really did try to sequel bait, and in fact they were teasing like a fucking streaming series based off of that film. It's like, no, I'm sorry, you didn't stick the landing, guys. This movie just it doesn't
Yeah.
have the juice. But Spencer Confidential, I isn't that like based on something like a series of novels or something, or
I think you're right,
yeah.
actually. That sounds right.
Yeah, I would check it out, but I saw like a trailer for it and I was like, what is this? I couldn't quite get the vibe they were going for with it.
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember anything from this movie, so I guess I cannot recommend it at all. So,
Well,
I
I will
mean,
say this much of the films that you held up there, and I speak in hyperbole when it comes to Peter Berg. Like there's just something about the vibe of a lot of films that I find a little off-putting at times. But those three films that you held up, I can't speak for Deepwater Horizon, but Lone Survivor is on my shelf. It was good enough for me to throw money at. And Patriots Day I did watch, and I found it very watchable. So you know, I'm not a hater. Like I'm not gonna shit all over the guy. It's like, no, he can make a fucking film. He's a fine filmmaker.
yeah. Hey, you're not a hater, and I'm not a lover. I'm not saying, that is, I had to bring things down a bit from, the PTA high art. Had to bring things down, become a man of the people. Pete Berg and Mark Wahlberg are men of the people. They're making movies for, the hard working. That's what it's all about. The city of Boston came together, and Mark Wahlberg and Pete Berg, they came together and just show, how hardworking Americans can, come together and save the day.
Yeah, bro, we gotta save Boston. We gotta
Yeah.
save Boston.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, I
Yeah.
think he's over there in that boat.
It is pretty crazy though, in hindsight, how quick that turnaround was for that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it kind of insane.
Yeah. I remember that, and I was like, "Hey, what? Like we're doing this now? Okay."
Like, I know, I'm trying to think. I know United
Yeah,
93, which obviously I think is way better than any of the Pete Berg movies, but that had a quick turnaround as well, too. But I feel like Patriots Day might have been even quicker. I could be wrong on that, but they were both quick.
yeah, for sure. Wasn't there another one like Boston Strong? I think with Jake Gyllenhaal. Could be
Oh,
wrong.
well, there was the one. it wasn't about the bombings, but I think he got injured.
I think
in he lost
he
his
was a
legs.
victim of it. Yes.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I do remember the turnaround time for that being a little like, oh.
I mean, when Hollywood is so out of ideas, they have to. I mean, if something in real life happens, they have to say we can't wait. We cannot wait. We are out of ideas.
I mean, not to. I'm not going to make a tangent out of this, especially considering I don't watch any of this shit. But just as an observer, and as a person who has a significant other who has a Netflix account, when I'm flipping through these things, all I see is things based on true events, like catfishing scandals and like any number of things that were originally podcasts. And I've said this before on other conversations with you, Brad. I think a big piece of the puzzle is saving time and money on writers, because coming up with an original thought and crafting a tightly constructed script is a hard thing to do, and not that many people on the planet are very capable of doing it skillfully. So I think like production houses and streaming services and whatnot, I think they're looking to true life stuff to serve as a foundation, like a framework for crafting these narrative productions, because it's just so much faster and easier to just like condense a Wikipedia article into what you would call a script.
Yeah.
Where it's like the story's already told. All you need to do is adhere to the story and get some sexy people to put in the movie, and then somebody will watch it, and like maybe get some of those TikTok folks in there for the kids. And it's like, oh, I know him. He does the dance. It's like, and now he's in the true crime Netflix show. There we go. Synergy. Okay, well, I'm going to call this my last pick, because the sun's starting to go down where I'm at, and I'm sure it's been way the fuck down where you're at, Brad. Okay, so I'm only picking this one. I don't have as much enthusiasm for this one as I do many others on my desk right now, but we can go over those very quickly in the speed round to conclude things. But you did actually name drop one of the people associated with these, so one half of the pair that I'm about to introduce here. So that kind of forced my hand. So I have here the powerful pairing of one Paul Greengrass and Matt Damon. So we have the Bourne trilogy, which of course Paul Greengrass directed, Supremacy, Ultimatum, and Jason Bourne. You can't see the Jason very well because webcam, as well as the film Green Zone. So we have here the trilogy box set. I don't actually have the Bourne Legacy, the Jeremy Renner one, because I don't like that film. I really don't, and I watched it once, and I was like, I don't need to ever watch that again. So as much as I have completionist tendencies, couldn't do it. And I also have Jason Bourne on 4K, and then, as I said, I also have Green Zone, which is a film that doesn't get talked about very much. I'm sure from a political standpoint, there's a lot of people that have problems with this movie because it deals with the Iraq War, which is always a sensitive subject, especially when we're, continually uncovering new and more awful things about that debacle. Decent movie, if you ask me, though.
I've never seen Green Zone.
I think it's quite good. I think it has a Greengrassian vibe to it, in that like it is occasionally, it sets you adrift. Like one problem that I've noticed with a lot of his films is that they're difficult to like latch onto, I guess. Like he kind of like shakes you loose every once in a while. He throws you a lot of curveballs, and the verite style of his cinematography, there's some weird combination that makes his films potentially unmemorable and also just difficult for some audiences to latch onto. Like, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend wouldn't be able to handle any of these movies. She'd be like, what the fuck are they talking about? Like everybody's talking past each other and using terminology that I know you can pretend, Trevor, that you know what everybody's talking about. You don't actually know. You're just pretending you do, and pretending it's okay that we can advance to the next scene without you actually knowing what the fuck was said. It's like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting lost in the woods. What can I say?
Yeah.
But yeah, Paul Greengrass and Matt Damon did some pretty cool work together, if you ask me. The Bourne Supremacy, Doug Liman directed The Bourne Identity, which is a solid spy action film, but Supremacy and Ultimatum, I think, especially aesthetically, are the films that most general audiences think of when they think of the Bourne films. That shaky cam, verite style, and just like kind of the grimy raw quality to the filmmaking is kind of a signature of Paul Greengrass. And folks at home, if you're not following, the reason I'm talking about this is because Brad mentioned the film United 93, which of course Paul Greengrass directed, sans Matt Damon. But I quite like Supremacy. I quite like Ultimatum. A lot of people have problems with Ultimatum. It is a little bit of a retread. But I'm actually glad this gives me an excuse. John Powell, I think, scored every film that I have in my hands right now. And his work on the Bourne films. The reason I'm pointing that out is because the review we did this week for Catching Up on Cinema was X-Men: The Last Stand, which is not a very good film. But the score for it is done by John Powell, who is a personal favorite of mine. I thoroughly enjoy quite a few of his scores, and his work on the Bourne films is maybe his best. There's some motifs and some instrumentation in these films that is truly astounding. The track Tangiers and Waterloo from Bourne Ultimatum, fucking spectacular. There's so many incredible cues. To the Roof from the Bourne Supremacy is it's incredible. Like I listen to that. I could listen to that shit every day of my life. Very similar to watching Boogie Nights every day. I have less good things to say about Jason Bourne, in that he's like co-composer for it, and a lot of it is recycled, and the new material is just not very good. And the other guy that they got, I think he's most known for working on the Batman Arkham games, which have good soundtracks, but whatever they dreamt up for this movie musically was just not very good. Green Zone also has a very good soundtrack, by the way. In particular, the final chase sequence, very similar to the Bourne Supremacy. The final chase in that, both of them are beautiful from a musical standpoint. But yeah, I don't know like what it was about Matt Damon that like paired him with Paul Greengrass. I think honestly it didn't. Maybe it had something to do with like personalities. I've never heard them speak at length about each other, but I do know that the Bourne movies made a fuck ton of money, so I wouldn't be surprised if studios and both director and star were keenly aware of that, and it's like, hey, you want to do that again? It's like, yeah, sure. Because like Jason Bourne is one of those movies that no one fucking asked for and nobody fucking expected, but we got it because it probably also made money. So I don't know if this was purely a pairing of convenience or purely for monetary reasons or whatnot, but I'm mostly happy with the work they've done together, so I can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, I like Paul Greengrass. I gotta say, I'm not a Bourne guy. I don't know what it is. Bourne for me, just not that I dislike them, but I don't really get the love all that much. Might be one of the most overrated franchises of all time. Uh, but I like Paul Greengrass. And yeah, I haven't seen Green Zone. I have his latest film, News of the World. I have that on 4K, and I have not watched it yet.
That's
Didn't really make much of a splash.
That's Tom Hanks, right?
Yeah. I love Captain Phillips. United 93, I think, is great. I guess Paul Greengrass for me is kind of just he's a bit of a like a Peter Berg is like the poor man's Paul Greengrass. Paul Greengrass is like the rich man's Peter Berg, because I genuinely think United 93 and Captain Phillips are fantastic movies. They're great. Whereas Patriots Day and Deepwater Horizon, little bit they're in the same zone, but they are a step down, I think. I definitely think that, United 93 and Captain Phillips are, much stronger, getting at something a little deeper. And I mean, the ending of Captain Phillips is an all-timer. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, no, you're totally on the money with that. Like that's a very solidly constructed film, and like that seems to be like his oeuvre. Like he likes to shoot things as if they're a documentary, but it's very clearly a film. Like it's very clearly staged,
Mm-hmm.
but the combination of the editing style and the framing, like the shot framing style that he uses, like he's trying to create like a grimy, raw quality to the film that makes it feel like you're a fly on the wall for the proceedings rather than like a coordinated observer or something. And
Yeah.
it's definitely unique, and it definitely doesn't work for everybody. But for the most part, I like him. Like I do think he knows what he's doing, and believes what he's doing, even if it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'd be curious to see what he's doing next. I haven't checked in on him lately. He did that Netflix movie July 22 or 22 July. That was another one that was based on a true story, true tragedy. But that one didn't have the same splash, and I also don't remember liking it quite as much, and I don't really remember why. But no, I'm definitely a Greengrass fan, and like you said, it is odd that Paul Greengrass and Matt Damon paired up together because you know I guess they did Green Zone and the Bourne movies, but Matt Damon, I don't think he totally fits in a like sort of documentary style, realistic fly on the wall zone. I get obviously the movies he's in. Is Green Zone based on true events? I would assume it is, I guess.
Uh, it's set amid true events, but I don't remember if the people involved are actual personnel who were boots on the ground during that portion of the Iraq War. I'm pretty sure his character in particular is
Hmm.
fabricated. Maybe some of like the agency higher ups are actually real people. I can't remember, but I want to say it's fabricated. It's kind of a I want to say it's like a what if story or something.
Well, I don't know if it's on the cover of Green Zone, not Green Book. I might have misspoke earlier. Green Zone, but um, I don't know if it's on the cover there. But Roger Ebert famously gave it 4 out of 4 stars.
Oh wow, yeah. So it says
Yeah, he
yeah, it
loved it.
says 4 stars. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun Times. Gritty, thrilling, from Richard
Yeah,
Corliss, who I don't know, but yeah, 4 fucking stars. Damn.
he loved it.
I don't know if that's warranted, but I think it's a solid little military conspiracy action thriller. Not much of an action film, if we're being honest, but it has an atmosphere and a pace to it that is compelling, if you ask me. And also,
Hmm.
what's his face? Jason Isaacs trying to be American, which is always delightful, especially when he's supposed to be like a rah tough guy American as opposed to just like a flatten it out kind of American. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, that was like I said, that wasn't one that I was particularly enthused about. It was just easy because Brad kind of set me up for it. So I guess I'll call that.
Got to do it.
I'll call that my last pick this time around. I do have a fuck ton on my desk though, so I'll breeze through it very quickly. But folks at home, as we conclude things here, if you're not aware, generally the way we wrap up our Tales from the Shelf episodes is we do something called the speed round, where basically we skim over the runner-ups, the titles that we may have set aside that just didn't have the time to spotlight today. So again, I will probably do my hosting duty here and toss Brad under the bus. Brad, would you care to run through the speed round first, or would you prefer to have me go first?
I'm only going to do 3 pairings here to close it out. I will mention the pairing of John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, who I don't have Escape from LA, but I've got Big Trouble in Little China. I know this is not the Scream Factory Blu-ray. This is just the bare bones with some sort of like garbage slipcover Best Buy threw on. I don't even know, but I do like Big Trouble in Little China. I can't even get it in the slipcover. There it goes. We've got Escape from New York. I have the Scream Factory Steelbook, and I have to say, this, even though I own it, it is on my list of shame. I have not seen it. That's one that I need to remedy. And then I have 2 copies of the Thing. I have the Garbage Blu-ray, and I have the Scream Factory Blu-ray, supervised by it is Dean Cundy, correct? Yes, Dean Cundy, who I love. And I do not own the 4K of that, embarrassingly. But that's that. I've only got 2 films for this one, but they have done more. I just only own 2. I made sure they did more than one. We're going way back on this one. If I really wanted to class the joint up, I should have done this. I have Billy Wilder and Jack Lemmon. Billy Wilder and Jack Lemmon. I have Some Like It Hot, the Criterion Blu-ray of Some Like It Hot. No, I do not own the Kino 4K, embarrassingly enough, but I do own the Kino 4K of The Apartment. The Apartment, which I have not watched. It is still in the shrink wrap. Embarrassing, I know. But I love Jack Lemmon. I haven't seen like a ton of his stuff, but anything I've seen with Jack Lemmon in it is amazing. Like, he is like a great performer. He's hilarious. And I do like Billy Wilder too. I mean, the guy's like, the amount of iconic films the guy did. Not that I've seen all of his stuff, but I mean, these 2, Double Indemnity, I'm pretty sure is him. Sunset Boulevard. I mean, the guy he was pumping out bangers back in the day. What a guy, right? And then I also have probably the most famous pairing of all time. I think you would at least put it in the top 3. And it is the pairing of Yorgos Lanthimos with Angeliki Papulia. Yorgos Lanthimos and Angeliki Papulia. With these films, Dogtooth, Alps, and The Lobster. Dogtooth, Alps, and The Lobster. I really like Yorgos Lanthimos. I love his style. I like his humor. I love his direction, the deadpan, the dry delivery. I absolutely love that stuff, and I love his films conceptually too. They're high concept, but very interesting. And I think the concepts are, unique, not like obvious high concepts. And this actress, Angeliki Papulia, if I'm saying her name right, which I'm probably not, she was the oldest daughter in Dogtooth. She had a pretty significant role in Alps, and she had a small role in The Lobster. And I don't think she's collaborated with him since. But, next time, baby, next time. So that's all I got.
Very nice. Of those 3, I've only seen The Lobster, but both me and my brother found it to be like kind of laugh out loud hilarious. I don't know what that says about us, but is what it is. But Kurt Russell and John Carpenter was one of those pairings that I earlier today had thought of citing on the mic as like a traditional example, because the 2 of them did some tremendous work together. But great picks, Brad, for sure.
Thank you.
I think I can't remember which version of The Thing I have, but I hope it's the Dean Cundy approved Scream Factory one, because that other one doesn't look so hot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have a fuck ton of picks here, but I'll just skim over them real quick. Okay. So for my speed round here, and again, you will not be surprised by most of these. I have here the powerful pairing of Scott Adkins and one James Nunn, who I believe is also a British filmmaker. I have One Shot, which I did a solo review of that I was actually pleasantly surprised. A couple, like the director and one of the cast members of, actually like popped up and commented on. Lee Charles. He's had a couple of throwdowns with Scott Adkins, and in fact he's the butcher dude from Gangs of London, like the nearly naked fight. That's him. And he has a little scrap with Scott Adkins in this film in One Shot, and I kind of singled him out as like a very solid screen presence, and he was like, "Thanks, man." I was like, "Oh, shit, cool." In the middle there is Eliminators, which features at the time, I think his name is actually Stu Bennett, but his wrestling name was Wade Barrett. So it's an all British affair of giant pro wrestler Wade Barrett versus Scott Adkins in a WWE financed action film. And they do everything you'd want to see in that particular pairing. We do get some wrestling moves, and we most certainly get some Scott Adkins kicks. The last one here is the unlikely third film in the Green Street Hooligans series. This is Green Street Hooligans Underground, which is headlined by Scott Adkins and again directed by James Nunn. I haven't seen the second one because, frankly, I'm not sure why it exists, and it doesn't have Scott Adkins. So, next up I have, and again, Brad, you will not be surprised with any of these, Scott Adkins and Isaac Florentine, who is the Israeli filmmaker that gave us a lot of episodes of the OG Power Rangers television show. And we have here Seized, Undisputed 2, kind of the movie that launched Scott Adkins proper. I actually don't own a film called Special Forces, which was their first collaboration together, and kind of the first time Scott Adkins' martial arts capabilities were really properly spotlit on film. I would like to own that someday. I've seen like the most famous scene from it, but I actually don't own it. Undisputed 3, which as I mentioned is the follow-up to Undisputed 2 and also the film that Adkins often cites as like his proudest achievement. The pairing of Ninja and Ninja 2, Shadow of a Tear, both excellent. And Close Range, which is painfully low budget, but a lot of fucking fun. It's a siege movie that combines some really solid martial arts work with some pretty sure people using airsoft guns as stand-ins for blank firing guns because we ain't got no money. Next up, one that I actually probably should have brought up on the episode proper, Liam Neeson and Jaume Collet-Serra. I have all their films. I know, I'm kind of kicking myself for not bringing it up, but Unknown. Wow, I point to these films as actually more so than Taken, like the reason why I am able to stomach a lot of the action schlock Liam Neeson movies from his later years. It's solely on the strength of his pairing with Jaume Collet-Serra. I used this example like at the top of the recording, but like knowing the capabilities and the liabilities and the boundaries of the person that you're working with, of the performer that you're working with, are so paramount to like the success that you can get from your collaboration with them. When it comes to Liam Neeson as a performer of physicality and action, unless he has a lightsaber in his hand and has been practicing for 9 fucking months, he's a little stiff, he's very lanky, and he's kind of old. So what do you need to make that fucking mess look good? You need a fucking filmmaker is what you need. You need someone who shoots and edits and stylizes things to such an extreme that it doesn't matter if he's stiff. Like, we can work around that. We got the technology. We got all the tools. And all of these movies, with the exception of Unknown, are pretty fucking good. Unknown can suck my dick. It's boring as shit, but I mean, I guess you do get him hitting Aidan Quinn, which is always fun. You get Irish on Irish violence, but Nonstop, a lot of fun. Kind of a whodunit in the air. Run All Night, I think, is underrated. Holt McCallany is in that one, by the way. He gets hit with a fucking turlet or some shit. And The Commuter is probably kind of near the bottom of these, but it's fine. It's very slick. It's very stylish, and it has a lot of people you like in it. I do too. I actually would love to watch that with the girlfriend. I think she'd have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, it's very, very watchable. I think there's a lot to engage you in there, even if you're not like a hardcore like myself. So I have here Donnie Yen and Wilson Yip. So this is, I think, all of their movies they've done together. So SPL, Flashpoint, Dragon Tiger Gate, and Ip Man 1 through 4. I already said enough about fucking Donnie Yen. But the two of them did some magical work in the late 2000s. Kind of injected some enthusiasm and verve into the somewhat waning Hong Kong action film industry at the time. And we have here, actually this is Tak Sakaguchi and Yuji Shimogura, who is the choreographer for all of these films. So Crazy Samurai Musashi, Reborn, Death Trance Versus, and Alive. So that's not the director, that's actually just the choreographer. But yeah, that's it for me. So yeah, I guess that draws to a close this episode of Tales from the Shelf. But before we go, Brad, would you care to let the folks at home know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Yeah, it's the Cinema Speak podcast. Find us anywhere you find podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We're on Twitter at the Cinema Speak, on Instagram as Cinema Speak Podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can just find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
Very nice. Thanks for that, Brad. And thank you for joining me. Folks at home, if you're not aware, this has been a little bit of an experiment. I'm hoping it goes smoothly. I have a feeling it did not. But we can fucking fix it in post. So yeah, Brad, as always, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the help.
Yeah, of course.
But as for myself, if you'd care to catch up on any of our other Catching Up on Cinema content, you can find all of that collected on our website at CatchingUpOnCinema.com. You can also find us on the social medias, on the Instagram at CatchingUpOnCinema, as well as the Twitter at CatchingCinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. And we are available on pretty much every podcasting platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google it. That being said, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Say goodbye, Brad.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Stop streaming.